Hello, welcome to, I think it's episode 106 of Mark Talks About His Stuff. Today I'm going to be talking about the most recent, to date, U2's studio album, Songs of Experience, that was released on the 1st of December 2017. This is an album that has a lot of good memories and a lot of important memories to me, but also I think it's an album that I think has been unfairly criticised by a lot of people, because there's that conception that artists are kind of like athletes, and the only good things that they do happen in the first 10 years of their career, and the stuff that happens after that is either boring new stuff or turgid, useless attempts to rewrite the same old song. And at the same point, some people will criticise a band that sticks to new stuff by not giving the audience what they want. But when they do give the audience what they want, when they do greatest hits tours, they go, "Oh, it's cabaret," and it's like, well, what do you want, man? Do you want the new stuff, or do you want to live in the past? Because you can't have it both ways. It's got to be one or the other. What I will say, in U2's defence, and you've probably worked out that I quite like U2 at this point, is that apart from the Joshua Tree tour in 2017 and 2019, everything that they have done, every tour and every album, has been a forward step, putting a new chapter into the story and trying to look at life now with the prism of having lived through what has happened before. Obviously, that Songs of Experience is the sequel to 2014's Songs of Innocence. And the cover, I think, of Songs of Experience, I think probably would have been better placed on the Songs of Innocence album, and the cover which I showed you of the U2 as old men, their parents, in 1999 would have probably made a better cover for Songs of Experience. But with that in one mind, I listened to this album again today, and I was struck with just how vital it was. When you get older, there's the idea in a lot of people's minds that you've learnt all your tricks, that you give up, that you either listen to the music that made you happy when you were younger, or that you just go into something else. I don't know, you take up golf or buying boats or something, I don't know. And I think that's really off, and that's really vastly understating. What happens as you get older. Now, I've had the good luxury to get old. The alternatives didn't seem particularly appealing to me, actually. It was either that, become a vampire or die, and I didn't fancy the last two options. They both seemed an awful lot of work and effort and not particularly much fun. Songs of Experience is, I think, the first album that they've made that is looking back at the story of their lives so far, whereas Songs of Innocence was very much looking at their childhood whilst being adults and recontextualizing the experiences that they had as adults. Songs of Experience, to me, doesn't feel like letters from adults written to the child forms of themselves. Songs of Experience feels like letters written to their children from adults. I kind of like, the embarrassing dad jokes, and I'm sure that there are some embarrassing dad jokes on this album, of course. But what it is I listened to it today, and it just really seemed to me like the first time that U2 had started to write to people that were going to outlive them and outsurvive them. It's I think a late career rebirth of this period. This period, which starts with Songs of Innocence in 2014, runs through to the end of the Experience tour at the end of 2018. I think really will be seen in retrospect as almost like a golden Indian summer for the Greek period, when the band played live a lot. They did something like 223 live shows. They did something like 3 different tours. They released 2 albums, umpteen singles. Really rethought what it was to be U2, and in the way I think a lot of people would think about Zoo TV and this Europa period and maybe Passengers as being, their most fearless and experimental. There was a lot of bravery, I think, in Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience, recasting themselves as old people, and not like elder statesmen of rock or national treasures or anything like that. It was more just them just going, we've been on a journey and we're going to tell you about the wild ride we've just been on. I think 3 years between albums also was a shorter period than the band had done for quite some time. And normally, you know, the band would finish a tour, and then 4 years after that, there would be a new album. Whereas in the 3 years in between Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience, the band had toured the world twice, once with the Innocence and Experience tour and once with the Joshua Tree tour. And in fact, in 2016, they came very, very close to releasing this album in late 2016, but they had to rethink it. And I think I kind of have to talk through why that happened. In psychologist talk, there is a thing which I think is called EPAS, which is enduring personality change after a catastrophic event. And what that means is that, you know, they can sew you up, but you can still see the tear, or the tear, depending on your point of view, which obviously is a line from The Sweetest Thing. But, you know, the band themselves went through some pretty major and heavy stuff during this period. Larry's dad died. Bono was reportedly involved in a cycle accident that severed some of the tendons in his hand, so he may never play guitar again. There was also an unspecified health incident in 2016, which, as he says in the liner notes for this, is that he doesn't want to dwell on or in it. But it's the kind of thing that where you have to look yourself in the mirror and realise that even though you may be terrorising around like the world's oldest teenager, you aren't. And I think that, you know, certainly Bono stared mortality in the face on more than one occasion in the couple of years after this album was released. And the world changed dramatically between the release of Songs of Innocence and the release of Songs of Experience. You know, the political weather changed, the wind changed direction, the world turned towards, I think, especially in the UK and in America, towards a more authoritarian, more right-wing, more conservative with a small c kind of approach. Trump was elected, Boris was rising, Brexit was voted for, and there's a lot of controversy around that. Is that the previously generally more liberal world that people were living in had started to turn away from that towards something that was a little bit less liberal. Is probably the nicest way of saying it. And by the way, U2 are a very political band. If you don't know they're a very political band, where have you been, guys? You know, and I think after the catastrophic events, which Bono kind of alludes to, I think it's fairly clear that we can say that one of those was that very serious accident or incident that occurred, where he was practically bedbound for a number of weeks. The other one was the incident in 2016. I don't know what it is. No one said what it is, and I wouldn't want to hazard a guess around it, but it's obviously going to be pretty serious. The other thing, actually, which is mentioned in the liner notes for the album, is I think this is the lyric sheet here, and there's an essay by Bono called Liner Notes. Let's see if I can find where it is, where he talks very, very clearly about, you know, the inspiration behind the album and what made that album happen. Of course, I can't find it yet. I really should have done something perhaps a little bit more obvious. But he starts with, and narrating. You start at the end. You start with emptiness. You start with nothing. You start with the void. And you know, he opens the album and he puts like an essay that goes in the case, which said, maybe it was the Dalai Lama who said any meditation on life has to start with one on death. It sounds a little bleak, but not to me. I lost my mother when I was 14 and I learnt so much from her vanishing. I wish it had never happened. I wish that I had been older, but as a young teenager, staring hard into the void, this was where a certain life force gathered pace in me, where a certain defiance began. To defy the odds, to defy people's expectation, to defy death itself, to rob it of its power over me or anybody else. And, you know, as I mentioned before, if you look at some great artists, they have been driven by a death at a very early age in their life, which has really informed their worldview. You know, I wouldn't want to do that COD psychology thing of saying that, well, people become artists to create something that's missing in them to get the applause from the crowd that they couldn't get from, you know, their missing parents or brothers or whatever. You know, Elvis's twin died. Bono's mother died. I think Elvis Costello, I think either his mum or his dad died at a young age as well. And it's one of those things that you kind of realise very, very quickly. um, just exactly how fragile and how precious life is and how quickly it can be taken away from you. And then that kind of changes and alters your personality, because you do realize very, very quickly, especially if a parent dies and you're very young or a teenager, you realize straight away time is running out. That I'm fast approaching the age that my mother was when she died. And I have every intention of outliving her. And that's the kind of thing where you realise, well, you only get one shot through this life. You only get one go. And you don't get a chance to start again when you're 50 or 60 or 70 or 80, because you might not get to 60 or 70 or 80. And so that's kind of like where I was talking about the enduring personality change after a catastrophic event. The whole of Songs of Experience is really songs written to their children, I think, from the position of somebody that has known grief and will know grief, writing to people that will know grief as well, because um, even the opening lyric is, nothing to stop this from being the best day ever. It's a line that very, very clearly kind of indicates that love is all that we have left. And the reason why almost every single human being on the planet exists is born out of love, or some equivalent of it, between two human beings. One looked at the other and went, "What?" or whatever that reason might be. Love is the reason why we are here, and love is all that we have left. And in the end, the love that you make is equal to the love that you take, and all that stuff that the Beatles said about love is all you need. It's all in there, really. This is an album that's kind of like dripping in or luxuriating in the experience of a lifelong love as well, because it's got one of the best U2 songs in a long time, "You're the Best Thing About Me," which is something that one of Bono's friends said to him, was that, Ali's the best thing about you. Ali being Bono's childhood sweetheart, pretty much his first girlfriend, I think, and that they've remained together since Bono was a nobody at school, and fame and riches and playing stadiums and all that stuff hasn't changed the fact that we've got these two little souls that are like travelling through time towards whatever the future might be. And if you're really, really lucky as a human being, you get to experience that at some point in your life. And hopefully you get to experience that until you get older. As again, every plan that I have got ties in closely to that. This is an album that's full of love, and it's full of grief, and it's full of experience. After love is all that we have left. There's the song "The Lights of Home," and that opens with a pretty stunning lyric, which is, "I shouldn't be here, I should be dead. I can see the lights in front of me." Now, if you've ever had a serious health incident, you'll know that feeling. You'll know that feeling where, and I mean, I've had it a couple of times, where I'm like, I ain't ready to go yet. I got decades left in me. I am not done. Um, and so, for example, I was very, very, very ill with pneumonia, bronchitis in both lungs in May through to about July 2014. And in the days before you would have the invention of antibiotics, for example, an infection of that severity would have killed about 1 in 3 of people who've got it, irrespective of their age. And I also had what I think was probably COVID in February. I felt really, really poorly. And the thought that went through my head when that happened, the same thought that went through my head when I had the pneumonia and the bronchitis, and effectively I was drowning in my own lungs, was, I'm not ready. I got stuff to do. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be facing this. I am not done. And then in Lights of Home, he kind of sings, "I shouldn't be here because I should be dead. I can see the lights in front of me. Oh Jesus, if I'm still your friend, what the hell have you got for me? I've got to get out from under my bed to see again the lights in front of me." And it's, that song, especially when it's played live, had a real resonance, a meaning, a defiance in the face of something, that potentially could be mortality around of you. And there's a lyric in here which goes, "One more road you can't travel with a friend," because ultimately there are some things that no matter how close you are to another human being or how far you experience it, they can't come with you through certain things. When you're lying next to somebody that you love, and that somebody that you love is going through an incredibly hard, potentially life-threatening health situation, with all the will and the love in the world, you cannot give them your strength. At some point, you will have to pass on to whatever the next life is, and you can't take them with you. They will go in their own time, traveling under their own speed. Is generally almost always kind of how it happens, and I mean, I've seen people that have had partners and parents and people like that die. It's quite a great illustrious fuckwit prime minister. Thousands of loved ones will die before their time. There's mortality is dripping in every groove of this album. Um, and it really kind of is messages, I think, somehow that will only necessary, it's almost, I mean, it's not quite, but yeah, it tackles a lot of the themes that Bowie's Black Star does, in so much as around mortality. It's around knowing that there is less road in front of you than there is behind, and how do you address that, and how do you deal with that? And obviously Bowie dealt with it by turning his death itself into a work of art. This is a very different record, because it's written by somebody that knows that will happen, but at the same point feels that there's a lot left to give. Now, it's tied in, I think, with a third song, "You're the Best Thing About Me," which I've touched upon before, which I think is a really important song, but it's a love song. It's about saying, well, actually, the best thing about me is you, whoever you are, my lover, my partner, whatever. And it's a very sincere love song, the type of love song that generally you don't get, because a lot of songs these days, a lot of songs always have been like, well, I miss you, you hurt me, come back, go away, all that type of stuff. Whereas Experience is as an album, the march of time drips through every moment on this, including Bonet's hospitalisation, and that unspecified health incident that I think caused huge chunks of the album to be rewritten and recontextualized. So, as I said, in I think late 2016, the plan was to release the album and then go on tour in 2017, and yet those changes politically, those changes in terms of health, caused the band, quite rightly, to take a step back and to rethink it. So they re-recorded "You're the Best Thing About Me." They changed the lyrics to some of the songs. They rethought some of the parts, and I think they came out with a very, very, very strong LP. Indeed, this is an album that will only grow in stature over time, unlike some of the other ones, because it's not an album that's designed for hits. Although it's got 6 singles on it, it is an album that has a weight to it that comes through experience. These are songs of experience, and actually the fact that perhaps Bono's son and Edge's daughter are on the cover there, they're chosen for a reason. It's kind of saying, to quote, I think, what is it, Spock in the monorail episode of The Simpsons, "Life's eternal ballet goes on," is that, we can see ourselves in the eyes of our children, and there's something in your eyes that took 1,000 years to get here, and it travels from your parents through to you, through to your children, through to their children, and so on and so forth. And it's kind of like part of we are just passengers in the river of life, and our role is to take care of the boat on the way. Now that sounds a bit serious, but it's when you realise that that's the type of thing. There's no time to be abstract. There's no time not to be alive. There's no time to speak in I think dualities or ghosts or guessing games or anything. You've got to go, look, it's all got to be here, man. I've just got to put it all out on the table. This is what it is, and this is what this album is. It's a very, very good record. I think "You're the Best Thing About Me" would have been hidden, I think, under Bluster um, a few years ago. Whereas actually at this point the band were just trying to write the best song that they possibly could, and hopefully it would be a hit, and hopefully it would connect with people. But at the same point, if it didn't, we gave it our best shot, and there's nothing more that you can do than give something your best shot, really. Um, it's not quite as preachy, I think, as some of the other albums. It's not quite, the moment where you've been hit with a streak of light, like in the Blues Brothers 2, the Blues Brothers, where John Belushi says, "Hallelujah, I've seen the light," and starts to proletize to everyone about the amazing revelation and the fantastic expectation that they've just had. That it's just, this is it, man. No time not to be alive. No time to fuck about. Um, and whilst there's a lot of mid-paced airy rock with tons of backing vocals in it, you know, they are sometimes really, really important. Like there was a fantastic line, "You're the best thing about me," where it says, "I can see that you love her loudly when she needs you quietly," and that's like, that's written by somebody that knows love, you know, and it's a wonderful moment. And I think what we found with this album, with the songs that were in it, is that U2 don't give you what you want, they give you what you need, and sometimes you don't even know that you need it. This was exactly the right album for me at the time when it came out. So 2017 was for me, I'd come through 5 pretty rough years. You know, I had great love and great support and great friends around me. I'd had some really difficult experiences. I've had, you know, that really catastrophic health issue with the pneumonia and the bronchitis. I've been, I still do, you know, I have issues with, you know, depression, or as they say in Clockwise, it's not the despair, it's the despair I can stand. It's the hope, which is, you know, one of the best lines out of anything ever. It's the hope I can't stand. Um, and I felt like I'd gone through a bit of a midlife crisis between about 2013 and 2016, where you kind of take a step back and you ask yourself the questions: well, who am I? Why am I here? What is the point of this? Why do I do this? Who am I going to be? You know, and I had to ask some very serious questions. Well, who am I? What do I believe in? Who am I going to be? Why am I going to be? What am I going to be? Where? You know, these are the questions that everybody asks. Normally, if you're Ridley Scott, you get to make a movie called Blade Runner about it, or if you're Jesus Jones, you get to do a single called Who, Where, Why. But in my case, you know, this album was almost like someone going, "Look, you're not alone." You know, at least I didn't grow my hair, get a leather jacket, and start and buy a motorbike. That wasn't kind of who I was at all. There are a couple of things about the album that I don't like. Uh, But I think this album really works. It's better and strengthened by Songs of Innocence. So the two are two parts of the same story. You know, one's the inside, one's the outside. One's the, you know, the heads. The other one is the tails. And you know, in the same way that every narrative has a stasis, a crisis, and a resolution, these two albums together tell a story around what it is to recognise that you've lived through history, you've contributed to history, and we all have in our own way. You know, and then also to look at the other side of that and go, well, what kind of legacy is there? What am I leaving behind? You know, and then love is all that we have left. Um, it's a great album actually. You know, you can't know how you've got to where you are unless you know how you've got there. You know, and you're not going to know which battles matter unless you actually fight them, unless you win, and you're not going to know which defeats scar you, or you know, because there's before and after, and there's never going to be the same. So those things that have happened to you are going to change who you are, and all of this album, I think, really kind of reflects on that. It draws lines and parallels back to the Songs of Innocence album. So there's a line in Volcano, which becomes the chorus of American Soul. You know, you are rock and roll. Um, there's the line about free yourself to be yourself. If only you could see yourself, which is the closing coda that sits inside Iris, which also becomes one of the main parts of Lights of Home as well. Which is free yourself to be yourself if only you could see. So they're repeating the lyrics, they're drawing lines between, for example, Iris and the Lights of Home. Iris being around the death of Bono's mother, the Lights of Home being around Bono's own potentially near-death experience around that. And then you've got the section that's in Song for Someone, and also in the song 13, There Is a Light. You know, that kind of chorus, there is a light, don't let it go out. This is a song for someone. And when I saw the tour, I saw the first part of the European tour in Berlin, and you know, having those songs sitting next to each other in the set drew a series of comparisons with each other, and it became really clear that Songs of Innocence was completed by Songs of Experience and vice versa. And it's only by having the two together that you realise that they are, you know, two halves of the same whole. in a way that's really, really. There's a massive payoff, man. Having 3 years to wait between albums, and then you listen to the album, and on one hand you might go, "Oh, they've not written a song," but it's not. That's not the point. The point is those two songs are meant to work next to each other. And there's a couple of things in the album that I don't like. I really don't like, actually. I should point out, and basically it is Kendrick Lamar and his lines, which are taken from a song called XXX. And if I'm going to quote the lyrics, I might as well be correct about it and go and quote the lyrics from U2.com, which is at the end of Get Out of Your Own Way. Kendrick sings, and this is where I have to quote them now, exactly and precisely. Blessed are the arrogant, for theirs is the kingdom of their own company. Blessed are the superstars, for in their magnificence of their light we understand better our own insignificance. And blessed are the filthy rich, for you can only truly own what you give away, like your pain. And then obviously the American Soul then starts off with, blessed are the bullies, for one day they will have to stand up for themselves, and blessed are the liars, for the truth can be awkward. I hate those 5 lines. They are nonsensical and balderdash, and I'm going to have to give them the thorough ridicule that they deserve. Blessed are the arrogant, for theirs is the kingdom of their own company. That doesn't mean anything. How can arrogant people be blessed? I've met a lot of arrogant people. I met a very arrogant footballer a number of years ago who couldn't conceive that I have no interest in sport. And so I was talking to him, and I was thinking, oh, who's this boring, arrogant, big-headed guy that I've found myself talking to? I was like trying to make excuses and yeah, and he probably thought I was negging him because I was getting an ego trip out of it. I generally had no fucking clue who I was talking to. I was like, I know his face. I think he's into football, and the way he was talking about matches and things. And I was like, okay, so you're a footballer. I'm not got a fucking clue who you are, but I don't want to be rude, so I'm going to be polite and I'm going to humour them. And it's that kind of arrogance where they couldn't possibly conceive that someone wouldn't know who they were. In the same way that some guy goes, well, don't you know who I am? Well, no, actually, I don't. We've got to be able to know our own place and have some humility about it. So arrogance is not blessed at all. Arrogance is where you overstate your own importance about anything, and just because you think you're important to yourself doesn't mean that you're important to anybody else. The next line is, blessed are the superstars, for in their magnificence of their light we understand better our own insignificance. Well, unless the superstar that you're talking about is Jesus, it doesn't make any sense. Blessed are the why are they blessed? Don't all human lives have some form of meaning and weight and importance attached to them? And then, blessed are the filthy rich, for you can only truly own what you give away, like your pain. Only somebody who is filthy rich could say that. Because if you're not filthy rich, you know damn well that the cliche is that money can't buy you happiness. But I'm telling you now, and you probably know this, having no money can definitely buy you unhappiness, because then your primary concern becomes on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It becomes around fuel and survival. It becomes around making sure I've got enough food, I've got enough money, I've got enough heat, I've got enough shelter. Right? Those are your basics. Being filthy rich is not blessed at all, and it's kind of only somebody that's lost touch with how much a pint of milk could cost would say that blessed are the filthy rich, unless they're speaking in the voice of parody, at which point you need to be a lot clearer that this is the voice of parody that you're using, because I would love to know what it's like to be filthy rich. I'd be really good at it, and I wouldn't buy a yacht called Tits, unlike one of the princes of Sudan, and I wouldn't have gold statues that are life-size of myself, because I'm not a prick. And so therefore to say that blessed are the filthy rich is kind of insulting to everyone that isn't filthy rich. The next one is, blessed are the bullies, for one day they'll have to stand up to themselves. That's bullshit. We all know people that are bullies, and we all know people that never become accountable for their own actions. They fail upwards. We can think of prime ministers, we can think of presidents, we can think of big-headed rappers that if they are bullies, they are never held accountable. There's never a day of reckoning, and there should be. And there are people that are never held accountable for their truly, truly terrible actions. The people that may have bullied you at school were never held accountable that I know of. They were never brought back down to size. They were never had to stand up to themselves. They spent the whole time running away from themselves. That's why they were bullied, because they didn't want they made themselves feel big by making other people feel that they were small. And those people never had any accountability. There was nobody that ever clipped their wings and went, no, you're a fucking nobody, just like everybody else. And the only thing that makes you feel good is making other people feel bad. That never, never happens, because they never stand up to themselves. What they normally do is that they find somebody who's bigger and badder than them that puts them in their place. And I've known a couple of psychopaths during the course of my life. They're bullies. They're very, very aware of the power dynamic. They know exactly how much power they have over other people and exactly how much power other people have over them. And they are obsequious ass kissers to people that have more power than them, and they are nightmares and monsters to the people that have less power than them, and they enjoy exerting power over other people. Those people are not blessed. They are a curse and a stain upon humanity. And I think it's ridiculous that that line is on the album. And then the other one is, blessed are the liars, for the truth can be awkward. What the living chuff does that mean? It means nothing. So, by the way, I should point out, I re-edited the MP3 of the Get Out of Your Own Way, An American Soul, and replaced it with Bono's speech that he gave from the floating platform next to the Statue of Liberty at an award show in 2018, which is "Blessed are the shithole countries, for they give us a dream," which is considerably less insulting and also factually a lot more accurate than the complete and utter horseshit that Kendrick Lamar comes out with. And so therefore, in my mind, that version of the track with Kendrick Lamar spouting laughable, arrogant nonsense just doesn't exist. It might be on the record, doesn't mean that it's on my life. Absolutely not. With that to one side, the rest of the album, fantastic, by the way. Or if you're Mike McKeegan from Therapy, fan-fucking-tastic, as he frequently says in between many of the songs when I see Therapy play live. By the way, I've only got to song 5 on side 1 of this double album, so I better get a bloody move on, because I haven't got that much longer left. There are 4 songs on side 2: Summer of Love, Red Flag Day, The Showman, and The Little Things That Give You Away. Now, Summer of Love is a very interesting song about the refugee crisis. And by the way, it also ties in with American Soul, which has a line where they're talking about refugees, about America is not just a place, it's an idea, and that it lives in our souls. And it's really, really important that we have ideas and dreams and aspirations to go through. And there's a line where you think, okay, I think I've heard it all. And then all of a sudden, a chorus comes out and sings "Refugeesus." And you're like, my God, we really do need, and it can't be any clearer than that from a political perspective, is that we should be treating the people that are refugees as human beings. No human being is illegal. And even now we have, that famed image of the dead, drowned child on the beach, which informed both the song and the video for the song. And even today in the news, they go, oh, body of missing child found in Norway. It's like, no, he's a refugee who drowned in a dinghy, whilst our Home Secretary says that social media are to blame for that make migrant crossings look glamorous. There is no way in which, getting into a dinghy and paddling your way across the Channel Islands with a 15-month-old is glamorous. Anybody that says that it's social media that makes migrant crossings look glamorous is, with all due respect, an absolute and complete moron. And frankly, that is who we have got as a Home Secretary. That line, "Refugeesus," took my breath away when I saw it. I was like, oh my God, the balls of that. And then to follow it up with the song "Summer of Love," which is very, very clear about the refugee crisis as well. Song 2 on side B, which is song 7, is "Red Flag Day." I've seen U2 play "Red Flag Day" 1.5 times. They played it twice at the Berlin shows in August and September 2018. That was the second show where Bono lost his voice during the middle of Red Flag Day. So I technically saw U2 perform Red Flag Day twice, but I only really saw them perform it 1.5 times. It's the most obviously retrospective of the songs on the albums. It's the song that I think could have most easily come off War or October or Boy, and and there's a kind of like a synergy with Boy being the first album and Songs of Experience being so far the last album, is that there was a boy on the cover of Boy, there's a boy on the cover of Songs of Experience, and there's a resemblance. You could look at his face there, I think that's Eli, and you could go, yep, that looks like that could be the boy from the cover of Boy who has grown up to become, well, maybe not a man at that point, but definitely also a boy as well. Life's eternal ballet goes on, as Spock would say. And it's just a great record. Lyrically, it's dense, and there's a couple of extra tracks on there. So there's The Showman, which has the subtitle Little More Better, which is grammatically incorrect. Little More Better doesn't make any sense. It's like an inverse double negative where it said didn't do nothing or something. It's sloppy English, and obviously I insist on all of my pop stars to be both glamorous and incredibly well spoken. And then there's the little things that give you away, and the little things that give you away is the first song off the album that was played live, and it's it's a great song about how the end is coming, it's getting nearer. There's a line in it about, and you'll have to forgive me because I haven't memorised every U2 song ever, just most of them. There's a line on there. Oh, it's turned itself upside down. Well, I can't tell you what the end, but the last line of the song is "The end is already coming. The end is here." Now, side 3 has Landlady, The Blackout, Love is Bigger Than Anything in Its Way, and 13, There Is a Light. Now, The Blackout, by the way, I can't believe I've not mentioned this, was the first commercially released single from the album, as well as a 12-inch, released on Record Store Day in 2017. This is the 12-inch, and there was a couple of versions of it, one which you could get from Rough Trade and Third Man Records, which had almost like an eclipse built into the vinyl in terms of the colouring, and there was a standard black vinyl 12-inch with the Jackknife Lee remix on the B-side. And some of my friends are at the video shoot for Blackout. I'm very jealous, but I too have also had fantastic U2 experiences, and the Blackout is, I think, one of the finest songs that U2 have ever written. It's got a really wonderful lyric in it, where it says, "Blackout, it's clear who you are will appear." And what's very, very clear from that song, actually, is that, when you look at the lyrics to Blackout, by the way, it's around, surviving an earthquake, bed shake, all those type of things, where, you experience something that shakes the core of who you absolutely are, the enduring catastrophic experience, and then your personality change after that experience, whatever that catastrophic change might be. It might be a stroke, it might be a bike accident, it might be the death of your mother, it might be a heart attack, it might be cancer, it might be pneumonia, bronchitis, it might be COVID, it might be any one of a million things, but you come out of that and you're never the same again. There is before, there is after, and the after is the version of you that survived. We've put those experiences in a box and kept going, and the lyrics that we've got in this is very clearly around, the collapse of things, the change of the established order, the enduring catastrophic event that somehow will be survived, and it's clear who you are will appear. Blackout, no fear, so glad that we are all still here. And when the lights go out and you throw yourself about in the darkness where you learn to see, when the lights go out, don't you ever doubt the light that we can really be. And light runs as a theory all the way through this album, right from Lights of Home all the way through to the last song, There Is a Light That Never Goes Out, through to the light bulb imagery that runs all the way through the album, through Songs of Innocence, through the Innocence and Experience and the Experience and Innocence tour. The light bulb, the light, that is our guiding light through it, whatever that light will be. It shows your path through the darkness, and the darkness gathers around the light, but the light will show the way to the lights of home, and you follow the light, and that takes you to where you need to be. Blackout, it's clear who you are will appear. And in the midst of all of that, in the time when there's crisis and there's disaster and catastrophe and all manner of other things, whatever that is, I shouldn't be here, I should be dead, that experience, the survival of that experience, will show you who you really are. What are you really made of? What do you really, really believe? And if you've gone through, a major catastrophic experience, a terrible breakup, for example, which I've gone through, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. I'd wish something worse on my worst enemy, by the way. But those kind of experiences, you go through those, and you go, you are not going to be the experience that takes me out. You don't get to defeat me. I'm going to choose, not you. And that's, who you are, who you really are. And it says blackout is clear, who you are will appear. And sometimes when you're tested, you go through that. And there's kind of like an echo of that in Love is Bigger Than Anything in Its Way, which, by the way, is a fantastic U2 song. I hope to be writing songs that good when I get old or older. And Love is Bigger Than Anything in Its Way draws back to a line that's in one of the other ones, which is another journey you can't take with a friend. Love is bigger than anything in its way has the line, the door is open to go through, and if I could, I would come to, but the path is made by you as you're walking. Start singing and stop talking. So it's kind of like saying, well, I can't follow you through this path which you've got to go through, but love is bigger than anything in its way. And it's just a lovely, wonderful song. And there's this element that comes in maybe 2/3 of the way through, with this chorus of voices singing about, the moonlight caught you crying on Killiney Bay, and if you listen, you can hear the silence say, when you think you're done, you've just begun. And it's a nice way of saying you're constantly in a position where you can renew who you are and change who you are, and you can carry on being who you are, and you can reset yourself, and you can free yourself to be yourself, if only you could see yourself. And all those lyrics all draw together into this sense of experience reforges us, and it rebuilds us. And going through these terrible events, whatever they are, that they're not specific here, they will change you. And there's that cliche about what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and it's kind of true, and it's also absolute nonsense at the same time. But what is important is that all the experiences that we go through have not killed us. I'm not dead yet, which is a line from a Frank Turner song. And then, of course, there is the album's closed officially by 13, which is There Is a Light, which reprises the chorus from Song for Someone. But also, the last lines of the album, which aren't a chorus, by the way, are, do you know your heart has its own mind? And so I've got a question for the child in you before it leaves. Are you tough enough to be kind? Do you know your heart has its own mind? Darkness gathers around the light. Hold on, hold on. And this is a song for someone like me. And there is a light that you can't always see, and if there is a world we can't always be, and if there is a dark that we shouldn't doubt, and there is a light, don't let it go out. And I think the light signifies hope, and it signifies belief, and it signifies a common sense that something better and stronger will survive and endure, and that light will guide us back to the lights of home. And I think this album is bloody brilliant, actually. I understand some people don't like it, and some people criticise the production of it. But that's kind of like saying you don't like one of the best books ever written because you don't like the font. We have to look beyond that, really. This is an important and a very, very good album. And most bands, when they get older, they go a bit crap. They don't put out albums that are as good as this. Now, I probably should have shown off some of my props more in the rest of the video. So this is Lights of Home, the 12-inch picture disc single. Now the band had played the St. Peter's string version of Lights of Home, and I have an alternate playlist of the album, by the way, and I'll post the list up to that elsewhere, where I've changed the sequence of the songs. But this is Lights of Home in itself is regarded as a pivotal track on the album. It was played as the second or third song at every show on the tour, and it really kind of and during Lights of Home, during the stage show, the band put up a picture of the town that they were playing in as taken from space with the date. The 12-inch picture disc, by the way, there has a picture of Dublin taken on March the 12th, 2017 from the International Space Station. There's a couple of other singles which more tie in with the tour. which the band performed, which I'll talk about when I talk through the Experience and Innocence tour, which will be my next U2 episode, whenever that's going to be and whatever that's going to be about. I think probably what I've got to do now is wrap up. Really, I've just got to tell you, I think Songs of Experience by U2 is a great album. Actually, a lot of bands, they lose their vitality, they lose their vision, they lose their brilliance as they get older. Brian Ferry himself said, well, there's only so many songs about swimming pools and supermodels that I can write. Well, the important thing is that we make new memories. We look at the world that we're living in now and we ask ourselves questions around, well, how are we going to adapt to that? How are we going to live in that? And how do we, who are we? Where are we? Why are we? What are we? You know, one of the key questions that we have to ask ourselves on any given day is, am I the best person that I can be? Am I the best me that I can be? And who am I and how can I be better? Life, as soon as you think you know everything, that's the moment where you should realise you don't know anything at all. You know, we've always got to be open to new experiences, new knowledge, new understandings, new connections in our minds, and we have to make new memories. We need new dreams to dream tonight. But etc., etc., etc. That brings my incredibly long series of discussing every single U2 album ever to a close, which I can't believe I've made it to. Good God. What I will do, I'll do an episode where I talk through the band's Experience tour in 2018, and I'll also give you a ranking of my favourite U2 albums in order. But for now, I'm going to wrap up and say thank you, stay beautiful, be lovely in the comments, and I will see you all again soon. Thank you. I now need to go off and have an important meeting with some cookies and some milk and some cats. Bye.